Blockcypher has been a really great partner for us. We actually funded our integration with Blockcypher at the beginning of the year, and we've been working very closely together on a bunch of different projects. You'll get to hear about some of those today. But this relationship has really been a very good one for both of us, I think, for a lot of different reasons. It's a very symbiotic relationship in a bunch of different ways, which we'll get into. But I really want to thank Karen for all the effort that she's put into helping Dash grow its ecosystem. It's been fantastic. So before we get into the things that we're doing together, can you tell me a little bit more about Blockcypher, what you do, the value that you bring?
Great. Yeah, thanks, Ryan, and thank you to the Dash core team. It's been really great working with all of you, and I'm excited to be here and continue to work with you. So a little bit about Blockcypher. This is a partial list of our customer base. We have a lot of different developers and companies using our web services. I spoke to one actually this morning about a gentleman who built a mobile app for his father's restaurant to be able to accept Dash transactions as well as other crypto transactions. So it's very exciting to meet all of you who have been developing and using our web services to create blockchain applications. So in a nutshell, Blockcypher provides blockchain web services and infrastructure. We often say we're like the Amazon Web Services for blockchains. Now in Europe, we have a number of customers, Wirex, who spoke this morning, as well as some other companies like Bitrefill, who tops off Bitcoin for mobile users, and other companies like Coinable, which is now Bitpanda, who I know also just recently added Dash, and a number of other companies. So we're very excited to be here in London and excited to talk to all of you and encourage you to come and talk to us afterwards, or talk to me afterwards.
All right, and now Blockcypher supports many different blockchains. What is it about Dash that makes it different? What are some of the use cases and things that like what are the situations that make the most sense for Dash?
Right, so we've been working with Dash in a number of other blockchains. As you can see down here, Dash is the most important here at this conference, but there are other ones that we work with like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin. So we provide web services support all those different blockchains. And what we've been looking at is really a number of different factors in evaluating which blockchain to use for which use case, and those things include scalability, the trust model, fungibility, privacy, governance, openness. Now, in the case of Dash, we've been encouraging a lot of companies, and you'll see this in some of our use cases, to look at Dash because of the privacy aspects that we talked about earlier today, the fast transaction times, the low transaction fees. And so for a lot of payments, and we see them as retail payments or payments where there's smaller quantities, transaction quantities, Dash makes a lot of sense. And you'll see in a number of the use cases we talk about, this applies in many industries, whether it's healthcare or energy. And so we're really excited about working with Dash to bring these new payments use cases to market.
All right, and then how has the partnership with Dash worked so well so far? And basically, how do you view the alignment of our interests in working together?
Yes, so I think it's been a very natural partnership, like Ryan was talking about before. First of all, Dash provides services. We're focused more on the transactions, and Dash is really focused on providing the lower transaction fees and gaining volume. And so that's very complementary to our focus in providing that infrastructure and the web services that make it really easy for developers to build Dash applications.
All right. And then maybe we can talk about some of the projects that you've had so far.
So some of the areas where we've been working on together include healthcare. We'll talk about energy and federal, state, and local, surprisingly, and then also a number of exchanges. So I was speaking to somebody earlier about the strategies that we have together and the partnership that we have. We kind of call it a horizontal and vertical focus, horizontal and vertical focus areas. So vertically, we are penetrating deeper into of the crypto ecosystem, whether it's with wallets or exchanges. But then horizontally, we're going after a number of new industries like healthcare and energy.
All right, so let's, yeah.
So just to summarize what we do, we provide a number of web services, including identity-related web services, transaction web services, which could be for payments or any kind of asset transfer, and then analytics. So these are some of the joint customers that we have. We talked about Wyrix this morning. We'll talk a bit more about Patientory later. Nutanix is a customer that we've worked with in the government sector. And who here works or has worked with the government before? Okay, good. Not too many of you. So you know that things take a long time, and they like to keep their silos. So this is a project that we've been working on with Dash and Nutanix, really to help scale out blockchain platforms for federal.
All right, and so we've been working on this Patientory solution. Tell us more about Patientory, how it works with Blockcypher and Dash.
Sure. So in healthcare, I'll talk about the challenges a little bit first. People are spending, companies are spending, organizations are spending billions of dollars on maintaining redundant data. And that's no surprise because there are many different groups that have to input or provide details around a patient. And so that's costing 20% of the IT budget. And 20% of the IT budget is wasted basically on these interoperability issues. So with Patientory, we're focusing not only on the data problem, but also the payments problem. So within the US, $30 million a year is wasted, $30 million USD is wasted on payments issues related to fraud. And in addition, a lot of these issues or these problems have to do with the lack of automation, really the manual claims adjudication and other processes that these insurance companies have. And within many hospitals, as well as insurance payers, there are people who actually have these billing degrees, and all they spend their time doing is figuring out how a payment is going to be going through from which insurance company to which provider. Now, this is a big problem. That's one of the issues that we're trying to address with Patientory. So Patientory is a blockchain healthcare company that helps providers as well as payers, but mainly in this, I'll give an example with providers, get paid faster, right? And so they have a mobile application that enables them to use Blockcypher to make payments on Dash. Now, what's so revolutionary about what they're doing here is Patientory has their own coin, and they're also using the Dash network. So patients will have the opportunity or have the option of using which network they want to use. Providers, in the end, get paid faster, which is one of the biggest issues they have today.
Yeah, and then I think, yeah, you can.
And so some of the gains really include not only on the data side, which you see here at the top bar, decreasing IT capital expenditures, decrease in hospital emissions. So in the US, because of the issues around the cyber fraud and basically the hacking into systems, healthcare companies, hospitals have not been able to admit patients when their systems go down because the ransomware has taken over that server. So Patientory enables them to do that, enables the patients to actually get admitted, and then using the Dash network, get paid out faster. And so that helps to reduce fraud, there's more accurate billing, and then automates the payment process and claims.
And this is one of the first examples of interoperability designed in between two blockchains, right? Where they're handling what they do well, and we're handling what we do well, which is the payment component.
Exactly. And this is why this three-way partnership works out really well, because Patientory is good at managing healthcare data. Dash is great at managing healthcare payments, or payments now in healthcare.
And so we're also working in the energy sector. You've referenced it a couple of times. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the projects that we have going on there.
Sure. So I'll start off with a little bit of the challenges. So if you guys have been following the news here in Europe, there have been a lot of problems with hurricanes and other storms in the US. And in addition to these outages caused by natural disasters, outages have been on the rise over the last decade as the grid, as the system continues to age. Now, this energy reliability problem is not only disruptive, but it's very costly. And in a number of states, what we're finding is in the US, over 20 states now find it cheaper to use solar than to actually pay out to their local grid. And 42 out of the largest cities in the country are seeing that as well. So using peer-to-peer energy transactions will actually be cheaper for people. In a lot of cases, these electricity companies will mark up the cost of electricity by 100%. And that's just ridiculous. So if there is a way that we can provide energy peer-to-peer, this would be good for us and the environment. And so what we're doing with DASH and this government agency is providing peer-to-peer energy transactions, payments, on a marketplace, in a marketplace. And so we're simulating that with 2 homes and showing that, say, Dash and Ryan and I live next to each other, that we could actually share the energy, say that I get from my solar panel, and he could pay that to me, and so I can share that energy with him, and he can pay me for that. And in that way, we don't have the issues with the grid, and it's something that we can apply even here in Europe, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But effectively, what's happening is a blockchain-based transaction where, say, I'm the energy seller, and Ryan's the buyer, and we're using the Dash network to execute that payment, settle those payments.
All right. And the thing that is amazing about this solution is that our grids across the globe are going to come under enormous stress for a number of different reasons. One of those is that we're moving from centralized production and distribution to a lot of production happening around the edges that could be transferred between the edges of that network. And the other implication is that electric cars consume about 2.5 households worth of electricity. So the demand on the network is going up. And so this will create tremendous stresses. And if you're able to monetize and move energy around the periphery without going through the center, there's an enormous amount of infrastructure savings that can occur, right?
Exactly. And so here in London, I was talking to a good friend of mine about how in 2040, I believe there's a ban on using petrol in cars. Now, the challenge is, how do you meet or provide a system for achieving that goal, right? Just like Ryan said, it's going to cost a lot of electricity to fuel every one of those cars. So how do we get around that? What are we going to do? Well, if there's a way that we can share renewable energy, then there isn't that same stress on the grid. And whether it's here in the UK or in any country around the world, we can have a much more sustainable way of providing energy.
It also means that that during peak times, energy storage devices like your car can be monetized during those peak hours and then refuel at night when the grid is less stressed.
Exactly.
And so that allows the infrastructure that is in place to service our needs for much longer.
Exactly. And so whether it's here or at home, if you have a battery that can be used by somebody and they can pay for it, then it's a win-win situation for both sides, right? So if we can provide a network where we can drive up, assuming all privacy concerns are addressed, right? We can drive up to the nearest battery, whether it's at an office or even near somebody's residence, right? That's going to save a lot of pain.
So this is great on a conceptual level. What are the outcomes of the project? What do we see at the end of this project that we're working on?
Right. So what's unique about this, and there are a lot of these type of energy projects going on, what's unique about this is that the blockchains today that we've seen are focused on, say, Ethereum or some other blockchain, which is problematic because there are going to be not only solar blockchains, but wind blockchains, water blockchains, and so there are going to be multiple blockchains, and there needs to be a fast, efficient way of making payments. So we see Dash as a unique partner in this space for all the reasons that we discussed before in terms of scalability and privacy, and the outcomes include not only having a test or a blueprint, basically, for how this can be modeled in different cities around the world, but we're looking to form specific partnerships with IoT vendors, the ones that are building the devices to monitor and track energy usage. We're working with the cities themselves, so Arizona and Phoenix is one where we're looking to put this in place and trial this so that all the residents can actually benefit from this and use it. And we're looking to work with local developers and companies that are implementing these systems within homes and offices.
All right. So I guess the next slide we can. Yeah. Yeah. So before we get to the Q&A, what are the plans for the future beyond this? Where could this lead down the road? There's a lot of companies that would need to be brought on board for a solution like this, like smart meter companies, and that would need to support a standard that would be set like this, right?
Right. And so in addition to the smart meter companies, we're also working with the regulators that may have to get involved, and all the companies involved in that whole ecosystem. So whether it's smart meter companies, developers, and the consortiums and the groups that have the prosumers, the consumers coming together.
All right, excellent. We probably have time for like one question or so. Does anyone have a question? If she could just repeat it.
Do you consider the owners of the grid an important part of this project? Is that right? So absolutely. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's exactly one of the motivations behind doing this project, because in many places in the world, the users aren't the owners, and that's a big problem for them. So we're looking at a lot of different economic models and business models where the users are basically investing in this microgrid so they can be the owners in the end. So as they pay into it, they're going to be part owners, and then in the long run, be the owners of this grid so they can achieve that sustainability that we talked about. So the question is around really how do we set up the contract between the owners, how do we have a charging mechanism to make sure, and the transporting of that energy. So that's actually why we're working with this particular government agency, because they have the technology, they've developed the IP, but they also have been, as a government agency, developed the rules and the regulatory framework for determining how these contracts and these certain processes can be set up. So we're working with them to leverage that and make that a blueprint, or at least a model, for other companies to follow. But absolutely, that smart meter, that measuring of the usage, the flow of that energy, that's all part of this framework that we're working on.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much to Karen for coming all this way, and the great work that they're doing to further our ecosystem. So, thank you.
Thank you.